If you often feel envious or jealous, then this video is for you. In this video, we're gonna go through the 3 habit system I used to fundamentally rebuild my self-esteem and self-confidence, and without any exaggeration, completely change the quality of my life. It's probably one of my greatest personal achievements so far. This 90-day program is the accelerated version of the methods I use to break free of the cycle. So, I was chronically envious for as long as I can remember. One of my first clear memories is of envy itself. I was in kindergarten making a drawing when I heard my parents praising another boy's drawing. A sudden spike of envy shot through me. I immediately ran to them, feeling an overwhelming need to declare that I could also draw well, which, to be honest, was frankly untrue. This persisted through most of my life, childhood, teenage years, and even early adulthood, showing up almost constantly. Now, many people think that low self-esteem looks like negative self-talk or social withdrawal. And while that may be sometimes true, it can also show up as narcissism. For me, that's exactly how it manifested itself. The reason for this was probably my parents, especially my mother, who used a parenting technique I like to call the 3 C's. Conditioning, as in conditioning her love. I can't love someone who doesn't excel in school. Comparison with my peers. If your brother got 100% in this exam, why did you get only 95%? And criticism. You can't do anything right. This toxic mix made me excel in school. So my parents sometimes praised me, but the 3 C's simultaneously crushed my self-esteem. I became a narcissist, believing I was the best, yet feeling chronically envious and desperately seeking attention. Alright, so let's dive straight into the first habit. I really recommend starting the habits in this order because each habit builds on the results of the previous habit. Habit number 1, the daily wins notebook. This whole journey started when I was in university, and I discovered one key routine. I got a small paper notebook, something like this. And it's important that it's a physical notebook, not some app on the phone. Every day I write the date and then make a list of tasks I wanted to do. Each time I finish the task, I tick it off the list. There's something so satisfying about physically crossing something off that you just don't get from an app. And when I finished all the tasks for the day, I put a big check mark on the whole page. See, here's a key principle I learned. Self-esteem requires accomplishments, but in the beginning it wasn't about getting great accomplishments. It was just about getting accomplishments, period. So the trick is lower the bar. I could have read an entire book, finish a hard university assignment, and have a hardcore gym session, but that wasn't realistic. And even if I managed to do it once, I couldn't do it consistently. Instead, I took a different approach. I committed to less to guarantee I would achieve it, which actually boosts your self-esteem even more. Because here's the thing about to-do lists. It's binary. You either did a thing or you didn't. There's no such thing as a half a tick. If you commit to reading a whole book but only read half of a book, you can't check it off. That's a failure for the day. So instead of writing read an entire book, I wrote, read at least 1 sentence. If I read more, then that's great. But the task only requires me to read 1 sentence, and I could definitely do that. Instead of finish the hardest assignment, I wrote, start it. You get a point. The goal is lower the bar so much that success is practically guaranteed. And let me be clear, the results weren't gradual at all. For at least 2 months or even 3 months, I felt almost no difference, until one day a colleague of mine was praising another one for his achievement. I was getting ready to bite my tongue and stay quiet, but then I realized I didn't feel that spike of envy. It was, without any exaggeration, a complete shock. That's when I realized that this simple notebook trick had taken my self-esteem from a 10% to what felt like 50%. But even with that win, I still didn't behave with myself as a friend. Habit number 2, the best friend standard. Now, this sounds like a cliche, I know, but stick with me because there's a real practical way to think about it. A while back I was out for a jog and my podcast finished. Usually I'd fumble for my phone and immediately put something else on. But for whatever reason, this time I just didn't. And in the silence, my brain decided to serve up this highlight reel of cringe-worthy moments. You know that feeling. And it landed on this one time where I told a terrible joke in a group. And the voice in my head was harsh. Oh, you're such a fool. Why would you ever tell such a joke? Why would you ever say that? And then I had this weird thought. I decided to run that inner voice through a new filter, the best friend standard. I asked myself, if my friend had told that exact same joke, what would I have said to him? I definitely wouldn't have called him a fool. I probably would have laughed and said, mate, not your best, but it's all good. Try again. And this standard is incredibly powerful because it's the perfect antidote for comparison too. I remember going for a run with a guy from my old job who I know I should be faster than. But on that day, he just left me in the dust. My immediate internal reaction was brutal. You're losing your edge, you're pathetic, everyone's going to think you're a fraud. But when I ran it through the best friend standard, the whole script flipped. If my friend had an off day, I'd say, dude, don't sweat about it, everyone has a bad day. The fact that you got out here is all the win you need. You just need some rest. It immediately turns that feeling of personal failure into just a normal human data point, nothing more. And it turns out this isn't just a random life hack. It's rooted in the psychological concept of self-compassion, pioneered by Dr. Kristin Neff. She explains that we have this harsh, inner, judgmental voice that we never use on others, but we deploy it against ourselves constantly. So the actionable step here is this. The next time you feel that thing in your self-judgment, whether it's for a mistake you made or how you stack up against someone else, run it through the best friend standard. Ask what you would say to a friend and then say it to yourself instead. I know this is incredibly awkward at first, I'm not gonna lie, but this simple habit alone of being my best friend has been transformative without any exaggeration. It took my self-esteem from a decent 50% to a pretty solid 70%. And what I realized is that this habit is like an essential tool in your mental toolkit. It's fantastic for repairs, for fixing your confidence when it takes a hit, but a tool is only useful when you know what you're building. I wasn't building anything new and ambitious. To go from maintaining your confidence to actively building it, you need a project. And that project is defined by your meaningful goals, which brings us to our final habit. Habit number 3, the silent quest. Alright, so we'll end up with habit number 3, which is the silent quest. To get to a place that feels truly unshakable, close to 100%, I need you to tackle meaningful goals. The old school hard goals, high bar achievements. But let's be real, big goals are terrifying. Why? Because we often see them as one giant pass or fail exam. If you don't get the outcome you want, all that effort feels like a waste, and your self-esteem takes a huge hit. So first part of this habit is designed to solve that. It's a trick I like to call the achievement ladder. Instead of having one giant goal, you break it down into a series of smaller concrete steps, the rungs of your ladder. Let's say your big quest is to get into a top university. That's a single pass or fail outcome. But with an achievement ladder, your steps may be: rung 1, get top marks on your next exam. Rung 2, write an outstanding personal essay. Rung 3, prepare and nail the interview. Now here's why it's so powerful. Even if you don't reach your final goal, you don't fall back to zero. Maybe you didn't get into that specific university, but you can still look back and say, you know what? I got the best grades of my life. Those rungs are real, undeniable accomplishments that form a safety net for your self-esteem. So that's the first part of the strategy. But the second part is what truly locks in your confidence. It's a secret that sounds completely backward. You have to learn to keep your wins to yourself. Keep them a secret. Here's why. When you achieve something, your first instinct is to share it. You want that hit of external validation, the praise from your friends, the likes on social media and so forth and so on. But that kind of validation is fragile, depends on others. You don't want that. The most powerful confidence comes from internal validation, the solid, quiet knowledge that you did the thing. For a long time I told myself I wanted to be a morning person, but I always failed. Finally I got serious about it. It was a miserable process of waking up at 6 a.m. every single day. There were no fireworks, no one to congratulate me. It was just me alone in the dark, fighting the snooze button. After about 2 months, I hit the 60-day streak on my habit tracker. The urge to screenshot it and post it on the social media was huge. Look at me, look at my discipline, look what I did. But I didn't. I just looked at the streak, felt a quiet surge of pride, and then started my day. And I realized something crucial. The accomplishment wasn't the 60-day streak. The accomplishment was the person I had become in those 60 days. I didn't need to post about being disciplined. For the first time, I just was. My self-esteem had changed, and that was a victory that no social media post could have ever captured. By keeping it a secret, even just for a day, you retrain your brain. You teach it that the reward isn't the applause, the reward is the accomplishment itself. It becomes something you do for you, and that's the final piece of the puzzle. It's the act of finishing what you start and finding satisfaction in the work itself that cements the deep, unshakable, true self-belief. And so that's the final component of my self-esteem building system. Alright guys, so I hope you found this video useful. Thank you so much for watching. Have a lovely day, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Bye bye.